Welcome to Talking Back to Suicide, everyone. And I am your host and co host, Dr. Diane Kaufman. I'm a retired child psychiatrist, poet, artist, internationally award winning lyricist, and the founder director of the Hold On campaign for suicide prevention. And there is Kino Isaac, co host in South Africa, DJ, music producer, entrepreneur, and mental health advocate for independent artists. And our guest today is Bracha Gertz. Am I saying your last name right?
Oh, I actually say it gets
Yes.
as if there's no O. Right,
Okay,
gets.
Bracha
Yeah,
Getz. Thank you.
sure.
And Bracha is a prolific author of children's books that inspire empathy, gratitude, living with positive values, and opening conversation on important topics such as sexual abuse. Bracha had an eating disorder in her youth. She became Harvard educated and initially wanted to become a psychiatrist specializing in anorexia. Life, though, had other plans for sharing her gifts, including her moving from the US to Jerusalem and later returning to live again in the USA, and now is a two-continent resident of the USA and Israel. And you're coming to us from Israel right now. She was a recreation therapist at the Levendale Hebrew Geriatric Center and Hospital, and became mentoring coordinator at the Jewish Big Brother and Big Sister League in Baltimore, Maryland. Your memoir, titled Searching for God in the Garbage, was published in 2017 and includes how she overcame her eating disorder. And she's written 43, who knows, maybe more now, children's books. And you can find out more about Bracha at her Growing Impact Publications website, where IMPACT stands for Important Messages for Parents and Children Together. So, very warm welcome to you, Bracha, for joining
Oh,
us today.
that was amazing. You did great research. That was fantastic. Thank you.
Well,
Wow.
thank you for being here today. So I'm going to sort of turn it over to you, Bracha. As you know, the podcast is about mental health, especially about how we can help prevent suicide, which, as you know, is an international public health crisis. Where I am in the state of Oregon, suicide is our eighth leading cause of death. And it's the second leading cause of death for ages 15 to 34. For college age youth, it's the second leading cause of death across the United States. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Bracha. Where would you like to begin in terms of sharing your story?
I can definitely relate to those statistics because, especially as a college student, I mean, there I was at Harvard. And like I said, I look successful on the outside, but I was so miserable deep down. And by the time I got to medical school, that was the lowest point of my life. I really didn't want to live anymore. And I remember my memoir actually was redone recently. It has a new title. It's called Nourish the Soul, Filling the Emptiness Within. And it starts off when I'm 12 years old and I'm beginning my search. It's like when I became 12, it was like an expanded consciousness. And before that, I was a child. And then suddenly, these questions about life just began. I, 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 I started writing my diaries after I read The Diary of Anne Frank. That's when I started my own diary. And I think it brought up all these questions in my mind about the purpose of life. And just as my body was changing, adolescence began, all kinds of thoughts started. And it kept going. So I was desperately searching, and the search became more and more desperate through the years. So that by the time I was in college, and that's how I ended up at Harvard as part of that search for the ultimate wisdom. I started learning about everything and studying things, and that's how I ended up going there. But there was disillusionment there because I didn't find the ultimate wisdom. But although I met like really famous people and the children of very famous people, I got to see that the fame and fortune and power, that's not the answer. That those people too were searching for something more. That wasn't it. When I discovered those things, I became even more disillusioned. I got to the top of what I thought was a mountain, and there was nothing much up there. So I would say that the eating disordered behavior became even worse at that point. And by the time I was in medical school, the behaviors were so bizarre and all secret, so nobody knew how I was suffering. And by the time I got to Israel, that summer, I had a 6-week break between my first and second year of medical school, and I went to volunteer at Hadassah Hospital in Israel. And a friend took me to learn about my heritage while I was there. And I found the spirituality that I had been searching for. And I want to tell you, I got to what I'm going to share with you today is the depth of the depth of those jewels of spirituality, which I think relate to every single human being. That's what I gained that summer, and it changed my life. But just before that happened, I wrote in my diary, and you could see it in there. I wrote, I don't want to go on any longer. This is it. I no longer want to live in this world. Even with, here I am, like in medical school, everything looks great, but I'm finding life more and more unbearable because I have no idea what the purpose is. And I couldn't go on like that. Other people could, but it was becoming like the void inside of me was so intense that the pain was taking over my life.
Wow. You mentioned about the symptoms of eating disorder. When secretive and other ways that you described it, could you go back in time to when it seemed to first begin?
It's kind of hard to say exactly when it first began, but there were different things that happened along the way. So that's why I documented from it's kind of like a documentary. It begins at age 12, where like you'll see, like I'm upset about something, so I'll eat this, and then I feel better right then. And then it goes on to somebody telling me in an offhand way, oh, she should really lose weight, and then I go on these diets, and suddenly I'm attractive to people that I wasn't attracted to before. So all this is giving me a sense of empowerment. And then I'm reading in the magazines, I'm reading in women's magazines how it says, you should go on this diet. And then on the next page, they have a recipe about how to make a strawberry shortcake. I'm like, wait a minute, which way are we supposed to be? I was getting so many confusing messages in life, like, what should a woman be in this time? Should I be a career focused person? Should I want to have a home? Should I want to be a homemaker, have children? There was so many confusing messages, and I feel like my body itself became a battleground. And I feel the symptoms of the eating disorder, which I don't really learn about until I put this book together. When I put the book together, I finally understood why, when I learned how to nourish my hungry soul, why there was no longer a need for the addictions any longer. Why did it begin to just fade away from my life? Because the food addictions was a symptom of the emptiness I felt inside and the desperation to fill it up. That's and what I feel now is that every human being wants lasting pleasure in life, but we don't know how to get that. So we go for addictions are so widespread because we're trying to fill the emptiness inside with externalities. While it does give a temporary comfort, it actually makes the hole get deeper and deeper. It becomes a bottomless pit, and the addictions just make the hole get even worse and deeper and more painful.
We're going to, with Kino, getting much more into that hole that you're talking about and how it can be in a healthy way. Maybe in some sense it vanishes, that hole.
It fills up. It fills
Yeah.
up is how it feels, because I think that hole is natural. We have that hole in order to fill it in a good way. That's really what we're here for, to nourish our hungry souls, right?
Maybe, and is that why you titled the book or retitled it, Nurturing?
Yeah, that's why I retitled it, to focus on that, because I saw that the more I was talking about the book, this seemed to be a better reflection of what the book's purpose is, right?
When did you retitle it?
Let's see. I'm thinking maybe 3 or 4 years ago. As I was giving more and more talks, I began to see that old title, the initial title, didn't really fit as well, and I switched it. Yeah.
Going back to when you were 12 years old, there was there food restriction and also overeating, or what was happening? Because
Yeah.
it sounds like there might have been a development of anorexia, but was there also bulimia going on?
Yeah. Well, not bulimia. Thank God I couldn't throw up. I had tried to do things like that, but I couldn't do it. That was not. I'm very grateful that didn't happen. So it was fluctuating between uncontrollable binges that were really frightening and very restrictive dieting, so that from looking at me, a person couldn't even tell how I was suffering. I was never obese, and I was never really emaciated either. I was always doing these things so that it was either after a binge, then I would use very restrictive dieting. So it was just
Did your family notice that something was going on?
a little bit, but I was only home till I was 18, and things got much worse after that. When I was living at college. I grew up in New York, and then I was at Harvard for 3 years, and then I went to medical school. So I wasn't really at home as things were getting worse. But I mean, they saw that I had gotten thinner at certain points, but they didn't really understand about the binges. At one point I told my parents I felt I needed help, but in those years it wasn't really look, I don't know why you need help. Like, everything seems fine with you. I thought I needed help and that I should see a therapist or something, but it didn't happen. So it wasn't until medical school that I began to tell my boyfriend there a little glimpses into what was happening with me. And he suggested that I meet with this psychiatrist for the medical students. We had somebody that was assigned to us. So I met with this psychiatrist, and he happened to be Japanese. And it was amazing to me because I told him everything. I told him all the bizarre behaviors I was doing. I spilled it all out in one session. And he said to me, I know you think you're in a very disturbed place right now, but you keep focusing on spirituality. So maybe this summer, it was like in May when I saw him, he said, maybe this summer, when you go to Israel, you're going to find what you're looking for. And maybe that will help you. I was like, what? I was like astounded because he wasn't even from my background or anything, and yet he was saying that. How did he perceive that about me? He was able to see even more than me. I don't know what was missing. It was like amazing to me that he could hone in on what my main problem was. Yeah.
Rocky, you mentioned earlier about disillusionment. Can you say more about that? What or why were you disillusioned?
Right. I was running away from my background very much. Um, when I was growing up, and that's why I was thrilled to go to Harvard and get away. And I, when I got there, like I just wanted to be anything but related to my own background and culture. So I know at one point I describe in the book too that I was invited to this exclusive garden party with like the children of the Rockefellers, the Kennedys, Moynahans, all these people, and I was explaining, they're talking with everybody. I'm there and I'm watching them, and they're just looking past who they're talking to for somebody else, for something more. Like, I felt like this is it. You have made it to the top, and there's nothing up here. And it felt very freeing. It felt like there was a mirage, and I got past the mirage, and it was a huge blessing because many people spend their lives going after these illusions of fame and fortune and power, and thinking that will bring them happiness and success in life, when I think it's Wayne Dyer that says success is an inside job, you know. That's really what but I didn't know at that point. So I go, okay, there's nothing up here. So where is there something? I haven't found it here at Harvard. Where am I going to find it? So that's the disillusionment that I felt. Um, and so I would say the eating disorder behavior became even worse while I was at Harvard, and I was becoming an expert on eating disorders. They're doing like groundbreaking research on it, speaking, and it's like meanwhile hiding what I was going through at the same time.
That's really something, that idea of becoming, and I think that can happen, becoming the expert, right, on the outside, and yet struggling so much on the
Yes.
inside.
Yes. Many people, I think, go into the fields that they're trying to heal themselves, you know, and help others too. But yeah, I mean,
I think I fall in that category.
I searching for answers, you know, because you want to heal and you want to help. Yeah.
You also said bizarre behaviors related to the eating disorder. What was bizarre about it?
Um, like people say, how could you write these things? Like the people that don't know me, that have read the book, it's not embarrassing. But when people that know me read the book, that brings up shame, because it's like they say, you have such a wonderful life now. Why are you divulging these things that you did that are embarrassing? But I did it obviously not for the people that know me. I did it to help others, because unless they see how painful your life could get, how low your life could get, they're not going to appreciate how joyful a life can be too. It's the contrast that really makes the difference and shows people what's possible. So what was I doing? Like I describe, I never seen it anyplace else, like a description of what it's like to be in a binge. It was horrible. I mean, when you just keep eating one thing after another and it doesn't matter, and you never feel full. That's the most amazing thing. How could that happen? But I think it's because I guess your body gets used to all these binges, so it just does it just keeps expanding. I don't know how. Now, if I eat too much, I mean, my stomach feels it, but then it was like I could just keep going and stuffing all these things in. And what I say is, we're looking for lasting pleasure. Um, and so that's why a person just keeps stuffing their face or using other addictions, because it keeps the pleasure lasting, but the results are so painful afterwards, when there's other ways to bring lasting pleasure into one's life. And that's what I finally learned. So, like, one of the lowest things that I was doing, that I describe in the book, is avoiding where we were supposed to eat our meals, and then sifting through the garbage for things that other people threw away. This was like really bizarre behavior. And in the book, at the end of the book, I realized the symbolism of that,
Mhm.
because I think I remember studying in psychology, um, that there is Carl Jung, I think, brought up that there is so much symbolism in mental illness. In mental illness, we act out, like our symptoms can sometimes act out what we're experiencing. So, what I realized while putting the book together is that I was searching in the garbage for what was thrown away, what still had value, that people were just tossing out as if it was valueless, and I could still redeem it. I was searching for my own heritage, my own roots that had been thrown away. Um, and when I found those gems, those treasures of wisdom in my life, that was part of my healing process.
Oh my, Braca, you really um, bring it to life in both a painful way, but also that sense of redemption and joy.
Yeah.
You mentioned attending medical school. Was it 2 years, or did you complete medical school, or what happened with your medical school journey?
Yeah, I just finished my first year of medical school when I had a 6-week break, and when I discovered the the wisdom that I was searching for, finally, I sent a letter to the school and I said I want to take a year's leave of absence. Although I felt I was never going to come back, but I wasn't going to tell my parents that. I said I'm just taking a year's leave of absence, and everybody was okay with that. I was thinking of transferring to Tel Aviv University Medical School. They had a program for Americans, but I knew I really didn't want to do that. That was just, an initial way of releasing myself from going back. And I was just thrilled. It wasn't a hard decision for me at all to stay and begin to really immerse myself in the spiritual studies. It was very hard on my parents. They were so upset, and they thought I joined a cult, even though I was just studying my own heritage. They were terribly frightened. Come back to America. You could study things here. Don't do this. Don't make these changes. But, thank God I I was immersed enough and in a different place enough that I could make this huge shift in my life. Because had I been there, I don't think I would have been able to make such a huge change. Yeah.
What can you say more about the spirituality that you began to experience, and what the tenets of it, or how it was conveyed, that began to enter you and
Right.
help fill you?
Right. The main thing that I want to share is the universal part. And that is, and this I think is the main core of all the teachings, that the purpose of life, this is what I was taught, is to experience the greatest pleasure possible in life. And what is the greatest pleasure possible? That's spiritual pleasure. And what is spiritual pleasure? Experiencing this world in gratitude. That really sums it up. So learning gratitude practices that I do from morning until night, from the moment I wake up till I go to sleep at night and throughout the day, is what changed my life. Learning, because following the guidelines of this ancient wisdom includes all these gratitude practices throughout the day. Um, while being immersed in a regular life, not being on a mountaintop someplace, because I was very drawn to those types of ideas too. But this is about experiencing gratitude with while being immersed in life, right? And that's really what I devoted the rest of my life to sharing with my children, through my children's books, through giving talks and presentations. I'm just sharing the benefits of gratitude.
Thinking how when one is in a suicidal state of mind, um, I think one becomes grateful to the idea of death and not life.
Yes, yes, that
And
is true.
you had mentioned feeling that you did not want to be alive anymore during the
Yeah,
course of your illness. Could you say a little bit more about that?
I want to say that as a child, I remember the world being full of colors, and as my adolescence progressed, the world became grayer and grayer. All the colors drained out of life, and nothing mattered anymore. If I met a guy at a bar and he was drunk and he would drive me home, that was fine. My life didn't matter to me. I'd be end up with all these people that were not trustworthy. Like my morals left, nothing mattered. Um, I describe that in the book too. Just doing all kinds of crazy, I'm not gonna say crazy. I'll just say bizarre behaviors because it didn't matter anymore. It became a world of gray. There was no black and white. Everything was relative. Nothing mattered. And and what changed is when gratitude came back into my life, the colors returned. Everything is vivid and colorful again. And what I want to also say to you is about I want to describe a story that I tell, and tell me what you think, because you're really experts about suicide prevention, and I want to hear from you what you think of this story. There was a man on a rooftop and he's ready to jump, and there's a lady that sees him from across the way, and she screams, "Don't jump, whatever you do." And he says, "Why not?" And she says, "I'm sure you have so many problems in your life and you don't want to live anymore. But what if, in addition to all your problems, what if you also were blind? And what if you were now suddenly given the gift of sight? Would you still jump?" And he says, "No, of course not." And she says, "Here's the gift of sight. Open your eyes and see, despite all the pain that you're in right now, you still have so many blessings in your life. Your hands are moving, your legs got you up to the rooftop, you're breathing. There's many diseases you don't have right this moment. There's so many parts of you that are healthy." I feel that's all of us. We all are that person. We all can relate to that. We all go through times in the day when we feel like giving up. But the more we can open our eyes and see the blessings in our lives, that there's really an abundance of blessings in everyone's life, that changes us. So I want to know what you think about that.
I feel that in the depths of a clinical major depression
Yes,
or possibly a psychotic disorder,
yes,
okay, or a severity of mental illness,
right,
that I don't think that that story alone is going
right,
to be sufficient to help
right,
the person.
right. And I agree with you totally. I asked I asked a therapist that I know what she thought about how much she thought gratitude alone could help her clients. And she said she feels that gratitude practices would change the lives of about 75 to 80% of her clients. But about 25 to 20% of clients have severe disorders that it wouldn't help. And I think I totally agree with that. I feel that there are many people, though, that it could help. That
And, and I would
yeah,
agree, and I would agree with
right,
that too. Yeah.
right.
But I want to ask you, Braca, when you're there in Israel and being introduced to your roots and spirituality, can you remember the first gratitude experience or exercise that you were given?
I'm not sure I remember exactly, but I remember I I first I was sleeping in the dorms at Hadassah Hospital, and then I moved into the school where I began studying. It was like for older adults to learn about the heritage. So I moved in, and one day, my first time sleeping there, I said to the young lady next to me, "Tell me everything to do. From the minute I wake up, I want to know about all the guidelines." So she starts telling me, and by breakfast, I said, "I think that's enough." That's enough for now. I don't need to hear any more. So it was gratitude exercises all day long. I didn't see it that way then, but there was so much to learn. And the first thing I do, the first word out of my mouth, the first words I say are modeh ani in Hebrew, which is the first word is thank you. Modeh means thank you. That's what I say as I open my eyes in the morning. That's the first guideline. So that's how I approach the day. And what am I thanking for? That my soul was returned to me for another day of life. That's that's the thanks that it begins. And then after I use the facilities, there's a blessing that I make about when we go to the bathroom that our bodies are working properly, because God forbid they're not. It is such an unpleasant thing. So these are things that we normally take for granted. It helps, all these gratitude exercises throughout the day help us to take things less for granted. That's how it changes me. That's how it's made the neuroplasticity of my brain make more neural connections, gratitude pathways, so that it becomes easier and easier for me to be grateful. And I make blessings before I eat and after I eat. And that's all about just being grateful for the food, not just gobbling it up and, really accepting that it's there to help me and nurture me. Things like that. Those are all examples of the gratitude practices like throughout my day.
It feels like to me that it's almost awakening us from a deep, dark slumber. Even though
Yeah.
we're
Yep.
awake, we can
Yes.
be asleep. And
Yes.
the sleep can sometimes be a nightmare, but it's
Yeah.
it's it's a sleep state. And
Yes.
practicing the gratitude is bringing us back to the present. And you can even think
Yes.
of the present as a gift, the
Yes. Yeah.
present.
Yeah. It brings you back to the moment. Exactly. It wakes you up from just going through life like sleepwalking, like you're saying, and not appreciating the moments. That's what it trains me to do. It trains the brain to scan for positive patterns. It retrains the brain to do that. Right.
And that's a mighty accomplishment, right? Because the
Right.
brain is also what pre-designed to search for danger and to be on high alert all the time and to remember the negative rather than the positive.
Yes, I think that's part of our brain is that. And I think we overuse that. We live today in this state of heightened anxiety, um, and we are a hypervigilance. Um, but really, in the natural world, it wasn't really meant to be that way. Like, we were really put here to enjoy this garden, and we've gotten really far off from that. Um, so like one of the books I wrote is a book that explains to children that we all have a voice inside our heads because everyone thinks they're the only one. This voice, the inner critic, is always telling us to focus on what we're missing, what we're lacking. You're missing this, you're lacking that. You'd be happy if you only had this. And when we recognize that voice, that's when I'm teaching children, recognize it. And the minute you recognize it, it loses its power. That's when you can take back the power and say, oh my gosh, it's that voice trying to get me miserable. I'm going to be grateful instead for what I already have. And it's really funny because it took me 30 years to write that book. I had the title, I had most of the book written, but I didn't have the ending of the book, which I didn't have the wisdom to know this until it was the right time. And that is that voice also is given to us as a gift. That inner critic is there like a personal trainer for us to push off that weight. It's weighing down on us. You should feel shame. You should feel miserable. When we push it off, we recognize it, we accept it, we're not denying it, we're not pushing it down. We recognize it, we allow it, we embrace it, we investigate it, and then we nourish our souls and we nurture and we can push it off and grow our gratitude muscles. That's how we grow our muscles. Pushing off that. It's a personal trainer. It knows each of our weaknesses. It's designed for each one of us. And the more we train ourselves to recognize that voice, which is also always with us, we can push it off and we can become more grateful people. Each connection at a time, as you know, the nerves that fire together, wire together. And I say that when you first begin to practice gratitude, you feel awkward and weird and it doesn't feel natural. But it's like driving on a gravelly road that no one's driven on before. But once you put those grooves in the road, it gets easier and easier to practice gratitude.
Raka, you are inspiring me. And I can also imagine you doing it a physical exercise class, which is a spiritual exercise class
Yes.
at the same time.
Yes, that's one of the things that brings joy. I didn't talk about this, but it's a pleasure ladder. You could download it from the website. It's just like there's 5 levels of pleasure which correspond to our 5 fingers. We have the ability to bring pleasure into our lives at any moment. It's in our hands. And again, I'm not saying there are some cases where that's not the case, and you need more than just gratitude. Absolutely, I don't want to dismiss that. I know that, but it can help everybody to some extent. And to some people, it could totally change their lives, as it did mine. So these 5 levels correspond to the 5 levels of the human soul. And the lowest level are all the natural physical pleasures, like exercising, swimming, gardening, yoga, dancing, music, eating the natural foods, spending time in nature. We wonder, why do these things make us feel better? Because they are filling our soul when we experience them with gratitude. That's the important point. When you experience them with gratitude, you feel reconnected, because when we're feeling depressed or anxious or in addiction, we feel self-centered, alienated, estranged, cut off, disconnected. This brings us connection, even if it's to an orange. We are connecting and feeling gratitude. That means we are being cared for. We're, we're experiencing that compassion and love in our lives as we experience it shows. And then as we go up the ladder, other things like appreciating other people, doing good and meaningful things. That's people say, go out and volunteer, being creative. All of these things bring us more lasting pleasure, more connection, as we do them with gratitude. That's the only price we need to pay to climb the pleasure ladder.
Is there a difference, Braca, between pleasure and happiness?
I'm really using it pretty much interchangeably. Like one of my newest books is The Happiness Box. A boy that goes inside the happiness box, he can only think happy thoughts inside the box. He learns to be a more grateful person in there. That's what it's about. So the pleasure ladder, I learned this. This is not my own creation. This is from ancient wisdom. And so that is how it was described, as a pleasure. And pleasure brings joy. I don't know. To me, it's all just, I don't know the real terminology distinctions, but I'm just saying these are the different levels of pleasure, and some are more lasting than others. But they all, in order to get to any rung on the pleasure ladder, gratitude is the essential ingredient.
Braca, if someone were to say to you, well, if I practice gratitude all the time, that sounds lovely, right? But is it going to take away my drive to change things
Great.
that I'm not grateful for, that truly need to be changed?
Wonderful.
Society injustice, domestic violence, various other problems in life that
Yes.
need to be changed?
I love that question, because I bring that up myself sometimes. Because does that mean you're going to stay in an abusive relationship because you're just focusing on all the good things in your life? No, practicing gratitude is filling yourself up with loving compassion. Even if, like, you never got it as a child, or you experienced abuse or neglect, you have a genuine scarcity of that loving compassion in your life. Gratitude brings it back in. We're not talking about you better be grateful. It's not like you better be grateful, like you have to do this. The gratitude I'm talking about, there's 2 different levels. Gratitude can come from what you give, saying thanks, and then there's the gratitude you just experience from appreciating. So this is about really appreciating the gifts in your life already. And the more you do that, the more you fill yourself up with the loving compassion and experience all these gifts, really savor them, really linger in the joy. you will not be as tolerant of the abuse. You will not be as accepting of that. You will be loving yourself up so much and see life as loving you up, that you will be able to more clearly make the distinction when something is crossing the line and there's abuse. You will actually be able to get out of more abusive situations and move toward more situations where you will bring more loving compassion into your life. It is about actually self-care. That's really what you're doing, and in a totally joyful way. And as you'll see, like one of the highest levels of pleasure is creativity. So it definitely doesn't decrease your creativity. In fact, it takes away things like fear of failing, writer's block, and all that, because it's not about you failing anymore. It's about just channeling this wondrous energy in the universe. You're just channeling it through you. It takes away that fear of failure because you're just part of the flow. You're just part of the same source energy that is flowing through everybody, and the ultimate oneness, the ultimate source in the universe. So it's like it gives you actually much more freedom to create when you experience this gratitude on a deeper level.
On a societal level, do you think that we practice gratitude sufficiently, or is there the opposite now going on?
Yeah, totally. That's why I feel so driven, totally driven to be spreading gratitude. I think it's so essential. It's so needed right now. What the world needs now is love. I mean, and that's it. It's part of love. It's appreciation. The definition of love here, the ancient definition, is what do you appreciate about someone else? What do you value about their spirit? So that's also gratitude. That's exactly what the world needs now. So much more gratitude. Also, I'll mention another one of my books is The Mother Who Always Said Yes. This just came out. It's selling out of every store because people are relating to this so much. It's a fantasy. This book is written to joyfully eliminate the entitlement epidemic. There's an entitlement epidemic, like I deserve this, I need this, like, and this is showing a child's fantasy comes true. They get everything they want. They just keep getting, and it's horrible. It's dysfunctional. It's nauseating, and it's really funny because the book never tells you that. The pictures the children see it from the pictures how dysfunctional life becomes, and the children are going, oh no, I don't want that, no. And it's like really great because the children recognize it on their own without it being pedagogical. I'm not like stuffing it down the children's throats. I'm not teaching them this. They get it themselves, and it's having like a tremendous effect. So yeah, I feel gratitude is so needed, and it's not hard work. It's enjoyable work. It's really a pleasure because any moment we spend being grateful is a moment that we're not being miserable. And we don't have to feel badly if we're not being grateful. Just be grateful for any moment you are grateful. That's how it goes.
Yeah, I was thinking too that the word appreciate has multiple meanings.
Yes.
And to appreciate also means to gain in value.
Yes, that's right.
As you appreciate, it's appreciating and you're appreciating.
Yes, totally true. Beautiful.
Kina, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. I don't really. Okay, first I want to say I love what you said about I woke up in the morning. I said, "Thank you, my soul was returned to me." That's so powerful, because when we all go to sleep at night, our soul is floating, different
Yes.
dimensions.
Yes.
That was powerful what you said. Like, wow, all the listeners even caught that part, and took it in, to
Yes.
self-reflect. Braka, this is the second time that we've been together having a conversation on a podcast. I don't really have questions, but what I do have is gratitude for the work that you do.
Oh,
And I'm going to say why. Okay. Now, when we combating mental illness and trying to prevent suicide in 2025, it's really difficult, and this is my opinion on it, it's really difficult for me to make an impact with your millennials, for example, or even your Gen Zs. Is really hard, given with all that's going on in the world in this day and age. I don't see that I can really make a huge impact as a person to bring those numbers down. I'm still going to be out there. I'm still going to push out my message. I'm going to do the best I can. But like, if I really had to quantum think it, I don't feel I'll make a real impact of bringing the numbers down currently with your older generations. But what I love about your work is I believe we can make an impact for the future generations to come. Your 4-year-olds, your 5-year-olds, your 6-year-olds. Because with your work, you are educating them on how to go about life with love, with gratitude, with kindness, with compassion, with humility. We never, to that extent, was brought up with that sort of mentality. We never really, if you really think about it, we never really go about life at that age or even in your teens, really being grateful for what we
yeah.
did have. We never.
Yeah.
It didn't
No.
matter which social class you actually belonged to. But
Right.
gratitude wasn't like nailed into you. Love wasn't nailed into you. Kindness wasn't nailed into you. So we can start programming the kids of today on how to go about life 10 years from now. That for me is going to make like a huge difference. A huge difference. Like how the saying goes, you can't teach your old dog new tricks. So it's hard for me to go into a room full of millennials or Gen Zs, and try to, yeah, there's going to be a small percentage where it's going to be like, hey, yeah, no, this makes sense to me. But it's going to be difficult to, transform that whole room. It is difficult in this day and age. But the 5-year-old kid who doesn't know yet, good, bad, mental illness, doesn't really know what depression is or has felt it yet, or anxiety, yeah, now I can take the work that Braka is doing, feed it to them, and that could transform how they go about life for the next 10, 20 years. And then they're going to end up having a healthy teenage life, healthy 20s, healthy 30s. That's my opinion on it.
Yes,
Would you
exactly.
agree with me? That's one question I
Yes.
can ask. Would you agree with how I'm seeing the world right now?
Yes, yes. If we give children the tools as early in life as possible, they will have them for the rest of their lives. So if we give children happiness skills early on in life, we're giving them such a gift. Then the whole trajectory of their lives is completely different. They have the tools. That's what we need to do. And I say the secret of children's books is that it reaches every single age, because it is affecting the parents and the teachers that are reading the books to the children as well, grandparents who are reading it. And I say teenagers pick up the books when no one's around, and they get the messages too. It's a way to reach every single age, um, and get really deep messages across in a joyful, clear, and simple way. That's what I'm loving to do. And the more people that could do this, the better, because we all have neuroplasticity. We can all still change, but for sure we can have the most effect on the youngest people. And the earlier we can absorb this understanding, the better. But I do want to say also that, they did studies where when a person won a lottery, like 6 months later, they're back at the same happiness level they were at before. If, and God forbid, people that were in major accidents, paralyzed, they went back 6 months later to the same happiness level they were at before him. But those that took on gratitude practices and kept it up, their happiness set point actually changes. And this is even as an adult. So at any point in your life, if you begin practicing more gratitude and you keep it up on a daily basis, or you don't, as much as you do it, you can change your happiness set point. You can change your happiness level in life. So yeah, we can have the biggest effect on the youngest people, but we can affect everybody, everybody to some extent.
Because it is difficult, to teach adults about gratitude. You were talking about how weird it can be at first, and that's the
Yes,
reality of it. The first time I started like practicing gratitude, and I mean, this wasn't at a young age. This was like quite recent over the last 3 to 4 years.
yeah,
But the first time you're like, I'm grateful for this, I'm grateful for this, it does feel weird.
yes,
To tell an
yes,
adult, practice gratitude, be grateful for what you do have, stop chasing, and the result is always more unhappiness in your life because you're always wanting more, 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 more,
yes,
more. We see it
yes,
happening all over.
yes,
It can become difficult, but you're right. At times, even as adults, I love to pick up a kid's book or watch a kiddie show. you know there's
yeah,
deeper messages in that than there is,
yeah,
in adult movies today. you know
yeah. You can get
so
the
reality,
message quicker. Yes,
yeah.
definitely.
So what
Um,
message would you push out to adults to embrace this, to embrace your work?
um, what? Well, the message is like, to overcome a habit, you need a greater and more lasting habit. You need, in order for your soul to heal, you need joy to heal your soul. So anybody that's hurting, it is joy that helps you to heal. How do you reach joy? The secret to joy is gratitude. Because if if you're not feeling grateful for all the blessings in your life right now, once you get more things, will you be grateful then? How long will it take for you to feel ungrateful again? It's about changing your mind, changing yourself to appreciate what you already have, so that really, whatever challenges come your way, and every day is filled with challenges, that's why we're alive. If we wouldn't be here right now if we didn't have challenges to go through. And those challenges are to refine our souls, to help our souls to shine even more brightly. So I would say just start. I love to give the example of an orange, just start with an orange, because it's here to love you, really. The orange, I told you this, but I can just repeat it again because it's such a clear example to me of something so tiny but so gigantic. Like I told you, the the fruit are green, they are camouflaged in with the leaves, and then they become bright and beautiful. Their most vivid color when they're ready for us, so that we get to experience pleasure of seeing them, beautiful, bright colors. We can smell them when they're fresh, and then they're individually packaged with so much love and care. So the orange that you're holding in your hands is meant to love you up. And this orange, you take off the individual wrapping, the sweet juiciness is kept in for months. You experience the taste, and then you're left with these seeds. And the seeds can become have the potential to become infinite more trees, infinite more oranges. So here you have something that was made with infinite intelligence, infinite love, just for you. This is just one tiny gift in your life. So think of all the abundance of gifts in your life right now. If you're listening to the podcast, if you're seeing the podcast, you have eyes, you have ears. It's unbelievable. If you're in a house, you have a protection over your head right now to listen to this. We have so many blessings, all of us. So the moment that any moment that we choose gratitude is a moment we're not experiencing misery. So just
Yeah.
moment by moment.
Gratitude creates a feeling, and that feeling will automatically, bring more positivity into one's life.
Yes.
I never
Yes.
make that up. That's what I learned.
Yes.
But I practice it. I do my best to practice it, because I
Yes.
believe in the power.
Yes.
You wouldn't have so many successful people all around the world, practicing gratitude if there wasn't power in it.
Yes.
The simplest
Yes.
things can become the hardest things as well to practice. But it's worth it if you're willing to give yourself a chance. Just try. That's all we're asking. Try.
Exactly. What's there to lose?
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. What is there to lose?
Sounds like, too, that the practice of gratitude fills us up. That
Yes.
if we're a vessel,
Yes.
that we're open to
Yes.
those connections and gratitude, which in a way literally are filling us up. But
Yes.
it's not as if that hole exists, because with the hole, there's no secure bottom. You could say like not grounded, right?
Yes.
And whatever you are getting just drops out.
Yes.
And it's an endless need for more and
Exactly.
more of also things that aren't meant to fill you up.
Yes. It's a bottomless pit. It just keeps going through, as opposed to when you start filling with gratitude, you're never running on empty anymore. So as challenges come and they hit you, it's not the same. You're not as devastated as you used to be when you begin practicing gratitude. Right.
I can remember mindfulness exercises, which could be, I don't know, eating an orange, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
paying attention moment to moment of the sensory experiences.
Yeah.
Or I don't know, eating raisins. Often
Yes.
it has to do with eating something, and
Right.
you're refocusing on the experience.
Yes.
But I don't remember, at least in my own memory, those mindfulness exercises also including gratitude.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the missing ingredient that changes it completely. Changes the recipe. Yes.
So,
Yeah.
Bracha, how can our listeners learn more about you, your books, your children's books, your memoir, other things you've been doing? I know you also do workshops, right? Or a speaker yourself.
Yeah, just visit the website, Growing Impact Publications. My children, they run the website and they run it because if you can guess, I'm not a business person. I'm not into that, I'm just an idealist, and so they are now, through my 40th book was published by traditional publishers, and now my children just took over and now they are publishing my books. So this is what's happening now, and they're doing all kinds of things. They're very creative people. They were both teachers. My son teaches first grade. My daughter-in-law was a preschool teacher. These are my youngest children, and so they're getting the messages spread even further. So yeah.
Kino and I want to thank you so much, Bracha, for your life journey, right? Your experience of wholeness, right, through spirituality and gratitude, writing your books and spreading more and more seeds, right, on ground
Oh,
that is fertile, right, once it receives that gratitude, so we can grow. And as you said, to shine our souls. So thank you so very much.
oh, thank you so deeply. Thank you. Thank you, both of you, for resonating deeply. I feel that those who experience all different types of mental illness, we have very exposed souls. We feel the pain more deeply. We're very sensitive souls. So we need this more than anybody. That's what I feel. It changes us because many people can go through life not even caring, but others of us, we are sensitive souls. Our souls are more exposed and on the outside, and we feel the pain if we're not getting the nourishment that we need. So I'm so grateful to be able to share what really nourishes our genuinely hungry souls. Thank you. Thank you for
Thank
giving me
you.
this amazing opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Right
Thank you,
back.
Braca. Bye.
All right.
Bye
Bye.
bye.